All right, we're on.
All right, I will call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Today is Monday, November 2nd, 2020. Welcome to our trustee meeting. Ms. Kraft, could please call roll.
Sure. Mr. Rivers?
Here.
Mr. Grumbles?
Here.
Ms. Taranto?
Here.
Do we have any agenda changes for tonight?
Chair, what I sent you earlier, I don't know if it got folded into the agenda, but just that one resolution that Alan Freeman asked for the MORPC application to be put under mine. So I don't know if that got added to this or not.
No, we'll cover that under your report.
Thank you.
We do have a couple corrections. If you have seen, do you have the corrected version up there, Michelle? You do. So the total for EPS in the consent agenda changed. And I'm looking at this at the bottom, and it looks like she put the same thing in there twice. The Delaware County quote is the same as Gov Connections, and it's actually the amount, the $14,891.55. Thank you.
All right, so Michelle, we were already on the consent agenda, so we'll move forward. And I guess with what was already highlighted there, do we have any questions, any comments in regards to our consent agenda?
Hold on just a second. So the consent agenda obviously has a lot of the CARES Act funding, correct?
It does. And we'll be talking
total?
about that again in my section
Okay.
with my spreadsheet.
Where does Triad fall? Is that in the consent agenda or is it separate?
Triad will be under Corda. So Lisa might be able to say specifically, but I think it's the 30,000 because Corda will be the contracting party and Triad will be the sub on it.
So my only question with that is we've already paid Triad money and we had a design picked out. Is this in addition to, is it starting from scratch?
So what Megan indicated to me was, but for the fact that they had done some work on this, there would be zero chance of us being able to get it done at the end of the year. So what they were going to do, and that 30 grand is potentially high. It's broken out on the quote a little bit more specifically, but they're going to do all the architectural renderings that's necessary. They didn't actually do all that before. They're going to go get the permit from Delaware County, which was not done before. So that's the design services that Triad's providing. The second figure is a very rough estimate of what they thought it would take a contractor to actually do the work. So it's probably on a little bit on the high side on both numbers. But that's
Andrew,
why
do you know if are they redesigning it or are they going with what they had originally designed for the front?
I can't say for sure. I mean, I think at one point I saw what they originally designed, but what they indicated to me was that where the double entryway is, that would be the way you come in. The area where Marianne used to sit would be the reception, with like the sitting area, the reception area. There would be a wall that would go up with a doorway that would ultimately have, the badge entry and a window there. So I think that's consistent with what was before, but I wouldn't swear to that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we aren't paying them twice for work that's already been performed and paid for.
Correct. And I asked about that, and that's what they said the difference was, is before they didn't actually do the necessary, like they didn't do it to the level that they would put the stamp on it, the architect stamp and signature, and submit it to Delaware County. So that would be a new service that they didn't do last time.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew, you're correct. We talked about this at a
prior meeting, I believe. And we had talked about having them do a formal, like a blueprint rendering of the building that we could work off to kind of get the best use, or whatever you want to call it, out of the square footage we have. And Dick Ray was going to work with them again, if memory served. And I think what they're charging for this time is to move towards that formality, kind of what you said, Andrew. I'm just trying to jar loose some memories, because it was earlier in the year, right about the time COVID dropped, where we were getting into this hot and heavy, and looking at how to optimize the footprint we have. So that's what I recall.
Correct. So there was ultimately 3 services that got performed related to this. Is the first one was the anticipation of redoing the garage. So they did some preliminary work on that, which serves as the basis for what they're doing now. In between, they've done a facilities assessment, and which is nearly done. I think at the next meeting, I anticipate we'll have it to present. I mean, I haven't talked to them about that because I want to get this done. So then this is sort of taking the first piece and then the second piece, which was the assessment, saying, yes, we do want some better security on that door, no matter how the building's used in the future. Put a reception area in there, borrowing from the first plans to redo the garage and the reception area. So it's a little bit of both, but mostly, as Trustee Taranto indicated, the riffing off that garage plan that ultimately didn't get done.
Right. The garage wasn't going to happen, but we were going to leverage the front end, the front of house stuff where Mary Ann sat, to your point. So if they just take the garage off, I don't know that, and I think where she was going is that I don't know that they would need to charge us for the same thing they've already done. We're just not doing the garage. So, we don't need a brand new $30,000 drawing if it's just taking a part out that's disconnected anyway. I think the best bet would be just clarify with them, and then when they produce, we'll compare their offerings that they've given us that we've paid for. And if there's a concern, I think they're probably a willing partner to sit down and talk through it with us. So.
Correct. And I'm just trying to pull it up right now. Let's see. So the way they broke it down was the construction documents, permitting and approvals, and all the stuff that they need to do that would be all total. There's a little bit of quota money thrown in there, would be 15,000. So they threw another 5,000 in if we have them do sort of bidding and that part of it, which I'm not sure we'll do. And then another 10,000 to be the construction administration. So the actual design services part of it is 13.5 plus a little bit for quota to do some engineering. So if that helps break it down a little bit more.
Andrew, the ionizers for the furnace system, what is that?
Where is that? Granville Mechanical. So that Dick Ray reached out to the company that did the furnaces in station 362. So 362, as Dick explains it to me, there's essentially 2 heating and cooling systems. There's 2 of those like Mitsubishi heat pump wall unit things. And then for the sleeping area, there's the central air furnaces. So those units would be installed on the furnaces in the sleeping area to help disinfect and minimize infection spread in the sleeping area.
So basically it cleans the air.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Trustee Grumbles, do you have anything to add?
No, I just wanted to make sure I recapped my recollection to try and shake anything loose there that would help us get moving forward. So it sounds like we're good to go.
All right, I'll make the motion then to approve resolution 20-365, approving the electronic record of the proceedings from the regular meeting held October 19th, 2020.
Second.
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto.
Yes.
And I'll make the motion to approve resolution 20-366, approving purchase orders and now purchase orders and blanket purchase orders.
Second?
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto.
Yes. And just to make a note, Andrew, on the, I'm not sure if it's on here, but I know I've seen it in the emails, the touchless doors
Correct.
entry. That'll actually aid us in being compliant with the ADA requirements that we haven't done yet. The handicapped accessible, redoing those on the streets is one of those things to make us compliant. But those touchless entries will also make us, will aid us towards being compliant.
And I think that's a good observation that on some of the quotes for that keyless entry system, you'll see there's a power door assist and whatnot. So I'll double check that with Dick, but I think you are absolutely correct. That is part of what will happen.
And Andrew, we had talked about that too. I don't, if we're talking about the front still, but with respect to the park bathrooms specifically, is that what you're referencing still?
No. So the park bathrooms, I'm going to have to circle back with Aaron about those. I think there was some concern about getting those done in time because the cellars, what you see on here, the cellars electric, and then wherever the plumbing went, that's for all the park stuff. So it'll be the touchless sinks, dispensers, hair dryers, lights, whatnot. But there was something, and I just honestly don't remember off the top of my head. I'll circle back with Aaron tomorrow, but there was something about the doors that I think there was a concern those couldn't get done by December 31st.
It'd be great to look at getting those ADA compliant either way, in my opinion.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it'd be a worthwhile endeavor once we get up to the hump of spending the grant money to still keep that in back of mind to move forward with.
Certainly.
And then the consent agenda C is blank, so nothing to worry about there, correct?
You got it.
All right, zoning report. Ms. Bonnie.
Hey, yes, good evening, everybody. For the zoning report, let me just pull that up. Coming up on Thursday, November 12th at 6 p.m., the Board of Zoning Appeals will have be hearing two applications. One is in regards to an area variance for a swimming pool within the Oak Creek subdivision, and the second variance is in regards to a pavilion in the Meadows at Lewis Center subdivision. And following that, on Monday, November 16th at 6 p.m., it'll be the continued hearing for application number zone-20-01 of the reserve at North Farms. We did send out a second round of notices to the residents for that, so we can make sure everybody is aware. And lastly, what will be on the next item on the agenda is zoning application number zone-20-02. Evans Farm Plan Commercial Amendment. We need to schedule that with the trustees. So that is the zoning report. Let me see if that is the actual next item. I think it's yes. So I spoke with Evans Farm applicant Tony Ironman, and he did request to be scheduled for the next trustee hearing, as that if we exceed past that and go to the following one, it would exceed the 30-day requirement to hear it. I know we have the Reserve at North Farms application for the November 16th meeting, so we probably won't want to schedule it on the same time, but that is the applicant's request to be heard that evening.
What time then would you recommend?
I mean, I think the applicant for the Reserve at North Farms is intended to provide some supporting documents prior to the hearing date, but although public comment is closed for that application, as I informed the residents that So I think that hearing could be shorter than it was at the last meeting. However, I guess, 6:37 for Evans Farm would be my recommendation.
I'm fine with 6:30.
No concerns here.
Okay.
And what, I'm sorry, what date is the next meeting, Michelle?
It's November 16th.
16th, right? 6:30. And we are at 367. I'll make the motion to approve resolution 20-367 to set the hearing date for DON-20-02 of BZ Evans on November 16th at 6:30 p.m. at Township Hall or via virtual meeting.
Second?
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto.
Yes.
Okay, great. The next item I have on the agenda is in regards to the Route 23 corridor overlay district. It's two items. One is to discuss an action on the calendar, and this following one will be the fee schedule. So I worked with our team on developing this calendar. It's in a similar format to how we do the Zoning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals calendars. So what we have scheduled based on the timeline that's outlined in the procedure of the district text, this is what we're proposing. So the first deadline we would have is November 24th. And then what we have scheduled as a proposed dates are the second trustee meetings of the month. I highlighted the first one as that would be December 21st. And I don't know if the trustees would like to consider adding a separate hearing for that one particularly, because I know typically we have a lot of end of the year business with appropriations and other miscellaneous items. I do believe we're going to have about 4 to 5 applications for the first one. So I would encourage the trustees to potentially schedule a separate date for that, the first round at the very least.
What do you think? Do it December 22nd as a special?
That would be my recommendation for everyone else's sake. So
Yeah, no, I definitely agree as it being the first one to have as its own meeting probably would make most sense.
mm-hmm. And I also want to add, we did schedule out the zoning commission work sessions too, and I did receive a consensus from the zoning commission at our meeting last week with these dates, so they were okay with moving forward with on their end.
Okay.
And we talked about when it gets to the work session, since I do anticipate 4 to 5 applications, we're going to try to do it in 30-minute blocks. So it'll be very experimental, but so I do think it would be most appropriate to have a special hearing for the first round.
Does December 22nd work for everyone?
So this cannot wait till January?
The only reason why is that the text is effective officially on November 5th, and I have been I've been getting a lot of calls on when they can submit, and if they technically could submit and once it's effective, but we can't wait that long to have the hearing according to the timeline. I know the holidays are not ideal.
That week is definitely not ideal. Are residents going to be able to know about these applications? They're going to be notified?
The residents that are adjacent to the property, yes. And then we will be publishing this calendar as soon as the trustees approve it.
You have a lot to do, Michelle. And so it probably shouldn't be during the day so that we're accessible.
I would encourage it to be in the meeting so the community can be involved.
Can it be the week of the 14th? Or is that too soon?
If it's the week of the 14th, I probably would push the deadline.
I just don't want to be rushed to look over if there's like 4 applicants in one meeting. I don't want to be rushed through that. I want to be able to take my time and look at them and.
So the 14th would be pushing it. The 22nd will give us more time. Is there a better day in that week that works? I'm okay either way.
I think we can push it to the following week on the 29th if we were, or the 28th, I guess, if we wanted to stick to Mondays.
That's actually worse for me. I'll make the 22nd work. I don't like having anything else that week other than the trustee meeting.
Yeah, I think if we put it on the trustee meeting, Trustee Trano, I think we'll have a very long meeting.
Right. So do the 22nd and I'll have to make it work.
Okay.
The 22nd, it's at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Then you just need the calendar approved. That's the only date, right, for now to approve?
Well, this calendar is for the entire following year too, so we need to give the applicants at least understanding of when things are due and what the meetings would look like. I know the trustees haven't decided that what the official calendar will be next year yet, but this was just my guess was that it would be the 3rd trustee meeting. I don't know if the trustees would be interested in pursuing a special hearing for every month. It seems like a lot of additional hearings, but I do need to have something out.
Sure. Well, I know there's obviously a learning curve here, so I think this will get us through the year. We'll see how this first meeting goes and then reassess going into 21.
And that's fine. We can amend the calendar.
Okay. So I'll make the motion to approve resolution 20-368, adopting the Route 23 corridor overlay calendar.
Second.
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Tranto.
Yes.
Okay, great. The last item on under the zoning report is in regards to the corridor overlays fee schedule. This was a bit of a challenge since we are the first township in Delaware County with the use of this type of overlay district. So we compared it to other communities in Ohio, and we came up with a similar fee schedule as what we have with our rezoning applications. However, it's just a little less as there's not as many meetings involved with this type of application now. So we're proposing it as a $2,500 application fee and then plus $100 per acre. And then there's different other fees that are included as signage could be something that somebody would want to come in and use the overlay for. So there's a signage package fee. And then there could be amendments, and those amendments would follow after the development plan was approved. So depending on what type of amendment it is, that would determine the fee for that. And then there's also extension fees too, as it has to be, I believe, completed in 3 or 5 years. Or at least starting construction. I don't see that happening, but we have that fee as an option, and if it's needed.
I'm fine with it.
And this is something we can also look into in the future too, if it seems that staff's having more time on this, or that the numbers aren't working out. But I do need to have something.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be making adjustments here as we go.
Yes. And I did draft a resolution. I just did it in similar format to how we've approved fee schedules in the past, and that's here for the board's consideration this evening.
We have anything to add?
No, just continue good work, Michelle. I know it's been a lot, and I appreciate all your efforts.
Thanks. We're just trying to be proactive and be ready as we anticipate a very busy holiday season.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 20-369, adopting a Route 23 corridor overlay district fee schedule.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Mr. Gumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto.
Yes.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Park report, Mr. Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a brief note. We've talked about it before. We're trying to get set up so we can convert completely and fully to rec desk for all our rentals, for our shelter rentals, for our swimming pool passes, daily passes, season passes. We have another meeting coming up on Thursday to move forward with that. We'd like to get online and have this up and running before year's end. So I'll keep you up to date as we move forward. Hopefully sometime early December, we may be able to convert this to all online. So I think it's looking pretty good. Other than that, next meeting, I'll have a full report of all our projects that are underway. I've got a list of things here in the works, so I'll bring you up to date on those too. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Cowan, this is Ben. I got a question for you. With one thing that I wanted to surface that came up earlier was related to the pool and access and the queue and managing that queue.
Yes.
So post-COVID environment, COVID, I don't expect to go away completely, or the uptick in hygiene and kind of space management, if you will. Wanted to surface that if there's grant money floating around left over, and I didn't think of this until you mentioned the pool. That might be something that we look at too, with turnstiles or improved access in the pool itself, just to facilitate a controlled access point that's more conducive to social distancing. In the past, I think observation was it could be a funneling point with little access control. There were concerns over how we admit people and things of that nature, and I think that if we can look into some of the practices like Zambezi Bay and other places did successfully this year, it might be something that we could potentially leverage the grant money for, or at least if we don't have the time, explore those options so that we're better equipped next year.
I appreciate that. I made a couple notes about what you're mentioning. That was part of our original conversation when we met with the architects at the pool. Better queuing system and be socially distanced at the same time. Those are high on our list, of course. But we'll definitely take a look at the grant opportunities. And I didn't think about the zoo water park and how they did that, but we'll follow up on that for sure.
Thank you, Bill. And I think part of it too is that there were concerns in the past about, the staff potentially getting overwhelmed and people just walking in and out. So the emphasis on controlled access and leveraging what those other groups did. I know, like the YMCA and we went to Zambezi Bay a few times, and they had an online system as well that I'm sure Rec Desk could be to be scaled for. But the physical components are more of an investment. So any grant money we can use systemically, software or system wise, it would be a quick turn on purchasing. So if there's any best in class or something like that we could look at to help encourage you and Andrew to work on that, and happy to help if I can.
Well, thank you for that. Just real quick, that the rec desk and we're going to move to a fob system as well. So when you get your season pass, you'll get a small fob to put on your keychain, similar to what you use at a grocery store or gas station. We're going to have turnstiles, scan, walk through. We're trying to eliminate all those delays of people queuing and standing and waiting in line, which is not good, certainly with the times that they are. So, but we'll keep your comments in mind. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yep. Thanks, Bill. I'll reach out to you separately so we can move along here. Apologize for the delay there.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. We don't have anything on the agenda tonight for public safety. However, Captain Rice, I know, is on our call, and I wanted to give the opportunity if you have anything you'd like to add.
Not at this time. I do appreciate the opportunity to serve the community in this capacity. Look forward to it.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, since Scott is going to be modest, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate him stepping forward and this gap. I mean, we've began soliciting for the chief's position and got some resumes already, but I've enjoyed working with Scott thus far, and I think he's going to be a great asset in keeping the fire department going and well-staffed, and make sure that the community gets the level of safety that they expect from what they pay and just what they expect in general. So I've enjoyed working with Scott. He came recommended so I just wanted to throw it out there that since he didn't want to take the opportunity to toot his own horn, that he's been great to work with thus far.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank him too for stepping up. I spoke with Andrew periodically through the process, and he kept me well informed. And I know there's a lot going on too. The timing with this and everything with the negotiations and things. And so I appreciate you stepping up.
Thank you.
All right, well, that takes us to the fiscal officer report. Ms. Kraft?
Sure. Just a few things before we get into all the CARES spending. I should have the accounts reconciled and reports distributed by Wednesday. I've already gotten a start on those and should be able to finish those up. I think you probably got an email from Andrew about the BWC refund, but just wanted to make sure you all are aware that we should be getting about $160,000 soon. And then if the governor, I didn't look to see if he approved the $5 billion that they were talking about approving today. And if so, then that would give us another $600,000 coming our way in December. So I haven't heard if that passed. I didn't get a chance to go out online and look, but just a heads up on that. COVID. Michelle, do you have my spreadsheet up? I'm looking at my notes. Can you open do you have that PDF, Michelle? Thank you. Okay, just a few things. We're obviously still working hard. The team's been great to work with, but a few things that I need to bring to your attention. We have about 2 weeks to really wrap up how we're going to be spending this money. We will need to pass resolution to approve another amended certificate of resources as it's going to get updated. Basically, our resources will be updated after I finish balancing the account with the interest. So we'll have to pass another amended certificate of resources. And then based on some of the spend decisions we make tonight and continue to make over the next week or so, we will have to pass probably another resolution to kind of fine tune the appropriations that were initially set. And then after talking to the Auditor of State and the Office of Budget Management last week, they both recommended that we basically pass a resolution for every spend item that we are using these funds for. So rather than, a very full consent agenda, my thought, and I'll run this by Chris Betts, is that we can just use this tracking worksheet and attach it as an exhibit to a resolution to approve all these. So that's my thought on that. But because of the tight turnaround time from basically our next meeting to when our reports are due, I am going to be requesting a special meeting if possible. This can be during the day. It's only 5 minutes for you guys to, approve the accept the amended certificate and accept our new appropriations, so that I can get my reports filed in time with the Office of Budget Management. So I'll email you guys later this week to see, when you have some availability. As a reminder, any money that is not encumbered, even if it's a penny, as of November 19th, I have to send back to the Treasury. If we do have to return any funds, then we are not eligible for the next round of distribution. So basically what happens is, let's say I didn't spend $1,000, I have to mail it back to the Treasury, then they're going to redistribute it again to all those who spent all their money, then they get another distribution. I don't know what that amount might be, but we should expect, if we spend it all, to get another sum of funds. No idea how much that will be. So between November 20th and December 30th. So probably the decision, you guys will probably be looking at maybe putting that towards salaries or whatever you guys wanted, or if we just don't spend it and I mail it back. So just want to get you guys thinking about that. And then on the spreadsheet. So you guys know, I just gave you a snapshot of the spreadsheet, but my spreadsheet actually has like items that we were thinking about spending money on, items that we kind of have tabled. I'm kind of keeping sums and things like that in it. But overall, I just want to review what we've got here. So highlighted areas I still need to kind of confirm some areas, but you can see who we're spending the money with. For example, on the consent agenda today, there was $82,000 for EPS, and that includes the Township Hall, which includes the intrusion system, the RFID system, for example, for Township Hall, firehouse, maintenance building, a badge for the printer, 361.
Lisa, do you know what the total is that we've spent so far?
Yeah, Michelle can go to the bottom. So it's about $650,000. That number in orange is my placeholder for extra funds to get us close to the 1075 that we have right now. So we've spent about with all this on this list, it's about $650,000. So a lot to take in. I did just add that after the discussion with Ben, hearing Ben and Bill, I just put a placeholder on the working spreadsheet for potentially a pass through at the pool, or a tighter access control and distancing at the pool. So, but the atomizers, actually, now that we're talking about that, do we need an atomizer for the pool, Bill?
I mean, we're going to have one for parks. We're going to use it at Township Hall and our playgrounds, and we could probably use the same backpack at the pool as well.
Okay.
I think it works.
So anyways, this is all the stuff we have now. One of the big questions that I would like to talk about tonight is the revolving loan fund, which is that $250,000. I didn't have a clear sense one way or the other if the trustees wanted us to reappropriate the COVID funds from the COVID fund back to the general fund for that $250,000, or what everybody's comfort level was on that.
I guess I don't know why we wouldn't. I think we should do that. We have that major road construction, Bell Canyon, coming up. By reimbursing the COVID revolving loan fund, then that money can be earmarked for Bell Canyon down the road. Especially that workers' comp, if you get that $600,000, those are all things to consider.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Liberty did, correct?
They did, and I've talked to legal on this on 2 different occasions. You guys have the opinion from October 19th. I think I sent that to you, where the Treasury actually does speak to this. And I had sent back some other questions, some additional questions, and everything still says, yes, we can do this. And I did send Bob Lamb a note because I heard the concerns last time. I think it was from Ben that, are we just giving the money to Delaware County? That's kind of what I heard. And Bob, assured me no. So I sent him an email just asking him if he could provide anything, but I haven't got anything back from him. So
Yeah, I don't think that's a concern, Lisa. I think we're okay. It would just restore our funds. It wouldn't change the obligation or anything like that. One thing to keep in mind, if we have capacity that's unallocated in the COVID relief grant, there's nothing that says we can't extend more to the revolving loan fund if it's reimbursable, right?
yeah, there's nothing to stop us from doing that.
Okay, so that's something else to keep in mind. If we spend everything we can get done and complete the work completed in time to qualify, and there's $300,000 left in the total grant, let's call up Delaware County and pump it into the revolving loan fund and reimburse ourselves the additional grant money, just as we would the $250 that we've already put in. I don't see that as being against the rules unless I'm missing something. It's all for COVID, so just food for thought there.
And it also could be used for firefighter salaries, right?
It could. Yep.
So there's a potential there.
Yep, I like that too.
To
But
save.
I think that last we checked the levy funds for the firehouse, if memory serves, looking at the numbers Lisa provided, I thought they were doing quite. It was a healthy fund right now, but I could be wrong.
No, it is a healthy fund. Absolutely. But I mean, while it goes towards salaries, then the healthy fund, maybe that could be used for something else towards a medic or something.
And originally we were hoping, Debbie, that's where we lost like 380,000. We were hoping we could buy a medic with this. It's still not off the table, but it's not on the table right now. I need more clarity. I sent an email to the Office of Budget Management to get clarity around that, because it's kind of wishy-washy in how it's in the legislation right now. So we're trying to get, if they shake their head and say it's allowable, then we could buy a medic for. No, I'm sorry. That's not the reason we couldn't buy a medic. We couldn't buy a medic because we can't get it by December 30th.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it came off. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
but if you to the point made though, if you offset the other expenses, it would free up the fund to, invest in a medic or, other equipment. So
Exactly.
Correct. That's
a fair
point I was trying to get to.
Yep, point well made. I'm okay with either, but just wanted to surface that option with the revolving loan fund. It came to mind when we were talking.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
No problem. So then are we good with moving? Are we allowed, the fiscal office, are we authorized then to go ahead and reallocate those $250,000 over back to the general fund for the COVID, for the COVID relief, for the revolving loan fund payment we made back in June?
Yeah.
I get that.
Is that consensus?
Yeah, and for the special meeting, we'll go through the resolutions and kind of tie up all the loose ends here, correct?
Yeah, I wanted to get that reallocated so I could get, because I need to know if that was going to move, because if so, I have to create a new appropriation code to move it to. So
Okay. Well, it sounds like that's
you're improving. So
Yeah.
if that's the direction, I can get it ready to go and you guys can approve it then.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Sounds like we got consensus, so I think we're good.
All right, if you guys are interested, I can keep you guys, I kind of send out the COVID tracking fund here internally every couple days. I can send it to you guys if you're interested in receiving it.
Yeah, I'd prefer to receive that. Anything that you send, I'll be happy to review and keep track of as best I can. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's all I got.
What a win for the community, huh? The
Yeah.
revolving fund came out to be a real win.
Agreed.
Thank you. Administrative report, Administrator King.
Well, thank you, Chair. If you don't mind, I'm going to go just a tad bit out of order since we got Mark and Melinda here as our guests to talk about the insurance renewal. And just to sort of set the stage, I know there was some concern about maybe what was looked at or not last year. I asked Mark this year to sort of take a look at everything from soup to nuts and give us a recommendation. So he came up with a number of recommendations, and I won't completely steal his thunder. I shared sort of the high level with everyone already about moving us to a more online system, reducing some of our administrative load. And then through his diligence, he has an option that's going to keep our renewal rate at a really low level. So I think, Mark did a really good job, and I know we've talked a couple different times and talked with the difference card people. So I'm happy to turn the floor over to Mark and let him share with you what his thoughts are.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, everybody. If you want to just who's controlling the screen?
It's me, Michelle.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, if you want to just slide down, that you can go slowly so we can see. This is just pretty much what we would look at a typical renewal, and talk about the summary and different cost factors as well. But because this is really the first time I'm speaking to the board here, I figured it would be really nice, and I'll do it quickly, to give you a quick history. So if you wouldn't mind jumping to page 4. Okay, so I started partnering with Orange Township in the fall of 2017. At the time, Orange Township had OPEC, and please feel anybody wants to ask questions as I'm going through this, feel free. OPEC was a consortium of small groups like Orange Township that band together to form to obtain insurance on a self-insurance basis. So real quickly, if you're unfamiliar with insurance, there are really 3 general stages. There's fully insured, where you pay premiums based on unit rates and the number of people in each tier, such as single family, etc. And that's what you do. That's what you have today. Then you have a level funded plan. Level funded plan is self-funded, but it acts like it's fully insured in that you pay those unit rates, and at the end of the year, if you have a good year, you settle up and get some of the surplus back. If you have a bad year, you get a bad renewal. And then there's self-funded, where you pay administrative fees and then you pay your claims as they occur. And that's what you were in, but you weren't seeing any of your data. And I know that was a big problem with OPEC, just one of many. And so the administration at Orange Township asked us to extricate themselves from OPEC. Ultimately, we ended up in a level funded plan. There was pretty much a price. It was the same cost whether to go fully insured or level funded. And since you already had the appetite for self-funding, we weren't really sure of our risk. We said, okay, let's go level funded. Well, as it turns out, the risk was very bad. And that's evidence, as you can see, we ended up going with Meritain. Meritain is Aetna's level funded product. And we knew as we were progressing through 2018 that it wasn't going to be a financial boon for us. In fact, what ended up happening is we ended up hitting our total loss sometime in October or November. So we really knew we weren't we weren't going to have anything coming back. In fact, we got 110% increase. So overnight, 2019, 1/1/2019, our premium was going to go effectively from 1 million a year to 2 million a year. And the worst part of this was that we could not find a home. I was actually driving to Orange Township with nothing to talk about when I got word that United Healthcare, for the same plan, was offering a 50% increase. 50% is horrible, but it's not 109%. Now, that was with your plan as is, and that was about $1,000 deductible, and through wellness credits, you can build it back to almost zero. So quickly, I said, okay, we have this partner called the difference card. See what a $5,000 deductible would look like. And then we get our difference card. So basically what that is it takes that $5,000, so we get a much, much lower premium. And then as we hit expenses that are accrued by the deductible, such as diagnostic services, blood work, hospitalization, and so on, then Orange Township would reimburse the member through the difference card. When it was all said and done, as you can see, the cost for the $5,000 deductible plus the expected reimbursement would result in a 19% increase. So we felt we did a great job there. I warned Orange Township when the difference card gave me their expectations of reimbursements that they undercut it greatly. And sure enough, as we were watching the data come in, we knew that it was going to be much higher than the difference card expected. But that's okay, because that's not the insurance company. That's just a small portion of your claims. But it did result in a $15,000 check being cut to Orange Township sometime in 2020. If we can go to the next slide, please. So last year, United Healthcare, and I sometimes get nervous with first year renewals because of the limited data. United Healthcare came in with a 35% increase. And this time there was no United Healthcare, quote unquote, like there was with Meritain, to save us. So just in good faith, they gave us 2% off. And that's not much, but it's better than zero. We did look at another offering that, with a variety of changes to the plan, would take that 35 at the time down to about a 10% increase. There would have been a lot of communication that would have been required, but we're talking about a $200 and some $1,000 differential. For whatever reason, my recommendations weren't accepted, and the township renewed at 33%. Next slide, please. So this year, right now, United Healthcare gave us, they started out with a 17% increase. Unless you have over 100 contracts, and that means 100 different employees on the plan, regardless of whether they're single or family, or if you're self-funded or level funded, you're really not going to get any data. However, United Healthcare did share with us, trying to justify their renewal, that that Orange Township does have 2 claimants in excess of $100,000. That doesn't sound great, especially for a group of 62 people, but because of the seniority of the people in on the plan, there's a lot of family coverage. There's a lot of 2-party and so on and so forth, where most insurance companies look for a 2.1 member to contract ratio. Yours is actually 3.1. And that's evident in your very high premium for overall, 462 contracts. So I felt we should still be able to get help from United, if not from anywhere else. Well, before we got our first decline to quote from Cigna, United Healthcare came back with a 12% increase. Then, actually just last week, Aetna came in, and when we looked at the specific plans that made sense, we found one that came in with less than 3% increase. At that point, United Healthcare came back with their final offer of 9%. Regardless of we go with United or Aetna, it seems that the difference card is working now. It's working to the point where they normalize their expectations for this year, so we're going to fall within the parameters. I mean, is that good or bad? Well, I think it's good because it tends to stability. It's way better than getting a $15,000 check back, in my opinion. If we can go to page 7, please. And really, it's just 7, 8, and 9 are the last 3 pages of medical, really. Okay, so this just shows you, and the bottom line, annual total premium, we use the numbers that United Healthcare, your current insurance carrier, shows, and then multiplied by the proper people. And that's using a static enrollment. 1.295 million would have been what you would have paid just in medical premium alone. Difference card comes later, the reimbursements. With the 17%, 12%, and 9%, you can see that 1.515 in premium went down about $104,000. Same plan. So nothing that we're talking about is assuming any changes in plan design. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is where we can revisit that we could have saved $230,000. So you have your current and renewal, your renewal at 9% now from the previous slide, and then 2 alternate options. The first one is the one where last year we would have saved $200,000 this year, and this is just the way insurance companies work. They're different. They act differently. It's about 80,000, a little over 80,000. Before I touch on why I wouldn't ultimately have recommended it and am not now, let's look at the last alternate. Your current plan is referred to as a grandfathered plan. So you have, as long as we don't really make any changes to this type of plan, we'll get X renewal. Well, the one to the far right showing a 36% renewal is pretty much the same plan as you have today, with one strength and several decrements. So a strength right off the top, if you look at out-of-pocket, third row down, out-of-pocket max in network is the same as your deductible. So what that says is you don't have to worry about co-payments of any type. They all accumulate up, where currently you have that $5,000 deductible, and then you're covered at 100% with respect to deductibles. However, if you spent an additional $1,350, as you can see, $6,350 minus the $5,000 in co-payments, whether it be prescription or urgent care or specialist, emergency room, so on and so forth, then you're covered at 100%. You don't pay a penny the rest of the year. So it's a strength in that 36% one on the far right that the deductible equals the out-of-pocket max. However, if you look in the office visit and for primary and specialist, you can see that both of them, because they're not grandfathered, have what is referred to as tier 1 and tier 2. So if you went to a provider that is a tier 1, and I'm not going to get into the weeds too much because I'm not recommending them. I just want you to be able to see this for perspective, That's a great thing. Tier 1, in the first alternate, you could see if you go to one, a tier 1 doctor, you don't pay anything. However, if it's not tier 1, then it goes right to your deductible. So as you could see, well, first let me say that in speaking with the United Healthcare rep, it's about 50-50. 50% are tier 1 and 50% aren't. The criteria is quality, it's quantity, and it's measurement, it's performance. And if you went on their website, you'd see it by having 2 hearts. So similarly, with the current plan you have now on the far right, it also has the tier 1, tier 2. Ultimately, in my opinion, that's way too much disruption. And if we're still using the factors that we do now with the difference card, the expected reimbursement would skyrocket. So there's a lot more to a plan than simply dollars and cents. So before we get to page 9, does anybody have any questions on this page? Or anything that I've set up to this point? Okay, let's go to page 9, because this then shows the Aetna option. And there are a few items just to focus on. First of all, you can see that it has the same deductible. Its out-of-pocket maximum is higher, but let me just point this out. If somebody, let's say I'm an employee, and maybe I'm one of the 2 6-figure claimants. So clearly, I'm at my $5,000 deductible, and maybe I'm taking a fair amount of medications, and maybe I'm going to the specialist many times a month, a couple times a month. You know, that could add up to that $5,000 plus the $2,150. Yeah, maybe that does negatively impact me by $800. But in a black and white world, I'm also the one that's continuing to drive your costs up. Okay, and I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's an employee or a dependent. That's not my concern. I'm just here to kind of explain that. Your current office visit for a primary care is $45. Your current specialist is $90. Prior to United Healthcare, because we were level funded, we could kind of manipulate the plan to make it be what we wanted. And we had coincidentally, purely coincidental, 30 and 60. As you can see bolded, that is what the the Aetna health plan comes with. So what we had to do to accommodate that 45 going to 30 and that 90 going to 60, we had to use the difference card in creative ways. Here, we wouldn't have to. Outpatient surgery and hospitalization, you can see, though, go right towards your deductible. Inpatient is moot point. First overnight stay, you're hitting that $5,000. Urgent care and emergency, though, you could see are less as well. The only issue in my mind on this plan would be the RX, because we talked about the 2 high-cost claimants. However, if you look at the 80-20 rule, 80% of your employees and their dependents, if they use the plan, they're using the doctors, the specialists, and they get prescriptions. I'm not the picture of health. I'm not that unhealthy, but that's me. That's what I do, right? I'm a normal utilizer on the plan. So when we look at the RX, you can see that you currently have a 10, 35, 70. Here it would be 15, 50, 90. So they're all slightly higher, but there's a 4th tier. And I glossed over it on the previous page, but all United Healthcare options also have alternatives, also have a 4th tier. So here you don't. So let me just explain to you, and I know these statistics are real because of my self-funded clients. I get this data. The first copay is $15. That is generic. Between 88 and 90% of all prescriptions administered nationally are generic. The next tier of 50 is what is known as brand name preferred. In other words, an insurance company will look at, say, migraine medications. They'll look at 10 brand name migraine medications, and they'll negotiate with all of them, and they'll get, say, in this example, 6 good deals to them. So they'll make them brand name preferred, therefore you pay less. Of the remaining 10 to 12%, 8 to 10 of that fall into that category. So of the first 2 tiers, you're really looking at about 97% of all prescribed medications. The third tier would be, in my example of migraines, those other 4. The fourth tier are specialty medications. Specialty medications oftentimes are injectables. Oftentimes, if they're not, they have to come overnight on dry ice. They're very expensive, very expensive. Melinda and I work with clients that have $500,000 for one medication. That's unusual, but it is not unusual to have an $80,000 pharmacy. So I was certain that your 2 high-cost claimants had a pharmacy component to it. And I'm not sure that they don't. However, United Healthcare was able to provide to Melinda and me a list of utilized specialty medications. And the most expensive per month is $4,800. It's not that much at all. The fourth tier, as you can see, says 30%. So we would never want anybody paying 30% of $4,800, or God forbid, some of those other very, very, very expensive medications as well. But it's capped to $250. Of the 4 specialty medications, there was one that 30% was actually only $180. The other 3 would go above the $250. The difference card, and this is something we're getting into the weeds now. The difference card is willing to do workarounds with this to try to make employees whole, if that is what you want to do. Certainly not necessary, but to make this a solution, the difference card can work with us. But if we now look down at the bottom, goes back to your 1.295 is your current annual premium. The 1.411 to the right of it is your revised 9% renewal. And the alternate, the Aetna equivalent, I put that in quotes, it is mostly positive differences, is $1.330 million. The difference card, the expected reimbursements for 2021 are going to be about the same, because we are within the limits of what they set last year. So looking at the 2 plans, you can see it is slightly up for the United and down for Aetna, where you could see this year is 140, next year would be 144, and with Aetna 122. When you add them up, you could see that your intended renewal goes from really 9 to 8.4, because those 3 numbers of the difference card are about the same. But we can take your renewal, make it largely stronger with Aetna, a network you used to have with Meritain, and turn your renewal into a 1.1% increase. So this would be my recommendation. But we have 2, what I feel are very solid options. The next 8 pages are simply the guts of the Aetna plan. It gets into the weeds of every visit, what falls into deductible, what is copay, what is covered at 100% because of the Affordable Care Act, so on and so forth. And then page 17 is what Andrew was referring to, alluding to earlier. We would be moving the standard insurance, your life, AD&D, and voluntary life from standard to MetLife. It's about a 30% savings, which sounds great, but we're talking peanuts in premium, comparatively speaking. But what we get with that is what Andrew was referring to with the online enrollment, with the electronic submission, with a partner that really is going to streamline everything for your administrative offices. Melinda, I didn't know if you wanted to get into any specifics on it.
Not at this point, I don't think. I mean, it's pretty much just an online enrollment system. Everybody would be handling their own elections. New hires would go in and make their elections. Everything would be in there. They have a great customer service for anyone to speak to if they had any concerns. It would just take a lot off of the plate of the administrator at the township.
So we are progressing with that aspect. That has nothing to do with medical. They don't work with the medical. They can help assist with billing, but they're more of an ancillary, dental, life, vision, disability, so on and so forth, as well as your worksite offerings, which are the pure voluntary plans. But we have a game plan for 2021 that looks very strong. I mean, if I could provide 1% increases across the board, I'd have the easiest job in the world. But it's not that easy. Any questions?
So is there any additional follow-up you had for the higher tier drugs then that you still need to confirm?
Well, no, there were just the 4 medications: Chantix, Viberzi, Latuda, and Librox. And those are in total your specialty medications. So yeah, behind the scenes, we could have this conversation with Andrew and the difference guard in how they could turn that 4th tier to be equivalent to the 3rd tier, which would be $90. I wouldn't recommend going back to the 15, 35.70 or whatever it is, because things do change. You have to move with the changes. But the 4th tier at a 30%, your 4th tier, for example, Humira, I'm sure everyone's heard of it. You can't miss the commercials. That's about $7,000 a month. You don't have anything like that. And I was shocked to see that. But those can easily be added to the plan, or new hires, so on and so forth. So to pay 30% off the top without some type of savings or solution, that could be draconian to some people, And if we were stuck with last year 33% increase, and these were solutions we'd have to do, I'd say, I don't know, we have to think about this. We need to help curb the costs, but we have a really good solution this year. So it may not be, if we can absorb it year one, and if we find out it's worse in 2021 than it is in 2020, then we start to chip away at it. But right now, it doesn't seem like we have to. I do want to bring up one more thing. Right now, your employees have a 0 deductible because you had the wellness credits to bring it down, and the Meritain, we didn't have time with the Meritain, and the fully insured companies really just don't do these that well. It was the decision, instead of going back from 5,000 to 1,000, to go the whole way down to 0. If I were to do anything, and I'm not recommending this right now, again, because of the 1% increase, but that's where you start to go, okay, we are now going to have the employees and their dependents be responsible for the first 1,000. We'll still pick up the back 4. We can do that at any time. I just, we have a 1% increase looking at us. That's pretty strong. So maybe this year is not the year to do it.
The one thing that, Mark, if you don't mind, I just might direct you real quick to maybe, because I had trouble wrapping my mind around this, and I don't know if Trustee Rivers being fairly new to the board when the difference card came on and Trustee Rumbles being new. The piece of this that took me just a little while to wrap my mind around was sort of how Orange was using the difference card to offset both the costs directly to the employee, as Mark sort of indicated there, but also it gave Orange the flexibility to choose higher deductible plans and save money also on the premiums. So and Mark, you can feel free to expand upon this, but that was one of the things that's sort of been alluded to here, is that allows Orange some flexibility in sort of how it presents those benefits and costs to the employees, and how it can also sort of absorb the costs from the carriers.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, the best example would probably be when we were facing that 110% increase. So let's just use, round numbers. The premium was going from $1 to $2 million. And the United Healthcare equivalent took that to $1.5 million, which, if you didn't know anything about the 110% increase, that would be horrible. A 50% increase it was justified because back then we had the data. But we were able to take, that was using a $1,000 deductible for whatever reason, because I had my account manager, I had the sales rep at United Healthcare restate the revised rates, because it just seemed like way too good to be true. That 50% at the 1,000 turned into less than 10% for a $5,000 deductible. So we're saving a ton in premium, about $400,000, of which then the difference card came in and said, okay, you purchased a $5,000 deductible, but we all know that's not what you want to give your employees. So purchase that, and then we will set up a plan that allows any member that has deductible features. And at first it was from beyond 1,000 up to 5,000. We will 100% reimburse you. And then we got into the copays as well. We started monkeying around with that. The reason the administration decided to go, let's just scrap the first 1,000, let's just reimburse the entire thing, was twofold. One, there was no wellness credits anymore, and they felt it would be unfair to make everybody pay 1,000. And two, the expected reimbursement from the difference cards opinion to go from a $4,000 exposure down to 5,000 was only 2%. And so the decision was, okay, let's do that. So that's what we've kept it for 2 straight years. If I would do anything, if you're looking to save potential money, I would start the exposure on the deductible, but I would still try to keep the pharmacy benefits intact, because virtually everybody uses pharmacy benefits, and a lot of people don't even touch their deductible. So that's just my 2 cents on that matter. Any other questions? Well, if there aren't any, Andrew, I have been in contact with Aetna and United. United is firm on their 9. I would rather not ask Aetna to get lower, but I will if you ask me to. And the only reason I wouldn't is because you're going to pay for it next year. And a lot of times, if you're showing the good faith now, then they'll remember that the following year. What I was trying to do, and I was unsuccessful, is I was trying to get a rate cap for next year. You know, even if it was 15, 17%, to me, that's not even a rate cap, but we saw 35s before, and we have experiences of 100 before. So I just wanted it more for budgeting purposes. But now that we have, I think what happened this year versus last year is the increase went up so much, 33%, that our premium now is at such a level. I mean, it's kind of like a, you know, good and a bad. It's like a left-handed compliment, that the competition is now at least going to keep everybody honest. So I feel that the days of those high increases are likely behind us. And Andrew, if you recall, when you first came on, I sort of boasted that, you know, without having any knowledge of what your renewal would look like. So I feel that Aetna's a good spot. I'd love to have a rate cap, but you know, if you think about it, if you just draw a graph and you start United at 105,000 above you, you know, it would take a 23% increase from Aetna next year just to get to a 15% increase from United. So, you know, it's not just 105,000. You're also starting lower next year than you would be with United. And it doesn't necessarily compound, but yeah, I think you understand how those numbers would move up the y-axis that way.
And I think, you know, Mark or Melinda, if you want to chime in, you alluded to this, but if we decided to switch carriers to Aetna, you felt like that was something that we could help educate all the employees and help move everyone to, and we could make that as much of a seamless transition as humanly possible.
Yeah, whether that be through the general open enrollment that we've done. I mean, I don't know what Orange Township's position in that would be, but part of the way it may not be as necessary is through GIS, where we'll be doing the online enrollment. And they'll, Melinda, will they have coaches?
Yes, they will.
And it's because of the move on that worksite voluntary that we'll actually have coaches being able to discuss all the benefit changes. In fact, you know, we'll set out 15-minute or whatever it is slots for people to sign up, and dedicated coaches will be there for the conversation. Plus you had Aetna right before United. They're two massive national carriers. They're both very strong in this area. So it shouldn't be an issue whatsoever.
So for tonight, Mark, are you looking for the trustees to give you directions on whether to move forward with the Aetna renewal or United Healthcare, and then come back when you and I work with the difference card, or how would you like us to proceed with your direction tonight?
If you want to take that recommendation and give it to me now, that'd be great. I can follow up with you tomorrow. I mean, the sooner we do decide, the better we're going to be able to implement GIS and get it all in the system. And that's why we wanted to have our answer to you by last week.
These are definitely the best renewal options that since I've been here that we've had. So thank you, Mark.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
For your work. To me, I mean, the Aetna, I don't see any reasons why we wouldn't make the change.
I agree. I think it's a you know, if we were trying to give you a solution with some, I'll just call it a fly-by-night network because they do come and go, then there would be a lot of caveats, but really there aren't any here. It's the communication on the fourth tier, and really that's it. And that's where, Andrew, you, Melinda, and I can work behind the scenes. And are we going to make accommodations right now? You know, so your exposure, even with the $7,000 a month drug, where's that going to hit you at the renewal? You don't have any of them right now. You have one that's $4,800, and the other three are $1,500, $1,350, and $600 a month. So, but your members' exposure and the way you'd have to look at it for you to reimburse is that 250, because that's the maximum, 30% up to 250, down to 90. So that would be $160 per person per month. So that's 4 times that currently. That's going to add up, but it's not untenable. So knowing that the max, knowing that the max is only 250 and knowing it is only 4 people, I'm saying we could probably make a solution. I'm not saying you have to create one.
Do you have
Well,
any
I mean,
other thoughts to add?
all I was going to say was that I would be happy to work with Mark on that with the difference card. If Aetna was the direction we decided to go on that, and I'm unaware of any reason at this point why Aetna would be a bad call, and it would save the township money on the renewal. And as Mark said, it potentially sets us up for next year. And I know Mark and I have talked a little about some things we want to look at for next year and whatnot. So, I mean, it puts us in a good position to going into next year too, I think. But
what's the only thing I heard a few times is making sure that our plan is, and Andrew, I think it's where you're going with the difference card, making sure that it's a bit, I lack the proper word here because I don't want to be insensitive, but responsible to, from a taxpayer perspective with, not having deductibles and that type of thing that are pretty standard, in outside of township government, I guess.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I personally agree with you 100%, regardless of the industry. But if you're looking at a 1.555 in the center on page 9 there, $1 million budget for 62 people, when you divide that total by the number of employees on the plan, that's high. That's well beyond the norm. So part of that is really because of past sins, because we have stabilized the annual premium portion, and unfortunately it's really hard to reverse ship on annual premium when a requirement of any insurance company to provide a quote is what is your current premium. It's grossly unfair, but that's the way it is. If I said, Orange Township.
Can I ask you to translate that just from a simplistic standpoint? What you're saying is it doesn't matter now if we modify the deductible, our rate's our rate.
The rate is the rate because the rate is a $5,000 deductible. Yes. The annual difference card totals could go down, and I know we're only looking at 10% of the overall cost by starting to ratchet up, which is 0 right now, what the employee would be responsible for. Whether that be instead of the first 1,000, because if somebody just goes for blood work or gets a few x-rays or stuff like that, they're still under 1,000. So that is not uncommon. But to get to $2,500 on a deductible, that usually means you're having procedures or you're going to be an inpatient. So instead of the first 1,000, maybe make it the back 1,000. We, Orange Township, will be responsible for the first 4,000/8,000, and each member would be responsible for the back 1,000 or 2,000, depending on.
So basically, if you utilize the insurance, the tremendous amount, or have major procedures, then you would share in those costs. But if you're going to do run-of-the-mill healthcare stuff annually, you'll probably be okay.
That's right. So if I'm
But a
one
major
of the two,
procedure you contribute
600,000,
to.
yeah, if I'm one of the two people in six figures, it's going to hit me 1,000, but not 2,000, just each member. So yeah, if you went to this and Orange is responsible for the first four, well, I know unless it was a one and done claim, which we don't know, I know that I'm going to be responsible for an extra $1,000.
So Mark, this may or may not be Trustee Grumble's what he's trying to get at. So, and this goes back to where it just took me a couple of months to sort of understand what the difference card was working. So when I worked for the state of Ohio, I think it was a $250, $500 deductible. That was baked into the plan design. There was no difference card, no nothing. I just knew, hey, I'm going to have to pay 250, 500, when I guess I got still have 4 kids on the plan. So I just knew that. So here, the deductible, changing it at 5,000, that is baked into Orange's plan. So any amount that we would cover or not cover of that 5,000 would be realized in the difference card, is what you're saying, correct?
Yes, and we can make it any way you want. Who's responsible for which portion? It's totally up to the collective us right here.
So potentially, just again, trying to compare like a government plan to a government plan. If it was a $500 family deductible at the state of Ohio, if we were to sort of say, hey, everyone's responsible for their first $500, that roughly would be 500 times 62 roughly. And that would be the amount that the difference card would sort of readjust the annual billing to us, correct?
Yeah, their assumptions would go, the assumptions for what Orange Township would be responsible for would go down. It wouldn't go down that full amount because they're going to make actuarial assumptions that, 63% won't even touch that deductible. But it would go down.
Right. So they're not going to, yeah. So we're going to see minuscule savings by cutting $1,000, bottom line, 15, 20,000 a year.
Yeah,
If
at most.
Okay. What's a structured plan look like that's still a great plan? I guess that's where I get stuck on this, because I rehashed the dialogue and the situation that transpired that you touched on earlier in the call from last year, and now to hear you say it, it sounds like it's more difficult to go backwards and right size than it is to just maintain the status quo. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because, and that's evidenced in the annual premium, because the annual premium row is what we purchase from any insurance company. And that is, and what are we purchasing? What is above the annual premium? $5,000, so on and so forth. And then to take it back to zero costs us an extra $140,000. So if we wanted to make it 20% of that deductible's responsibility of the member, maybe those costs go down 15%. These are all just assumptions at that point. I could run models for you.
No, I think I'm good. It sounds like the catastrophe was, there wasn't an option to work in the similar fashion before. So
right.
I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. So yeah, I'm okay. Thank you.
So, okay. No, but maybe to look at it in a different way, instead of let's just remove the difference card completely. And if we wanted to look at a $2,000 deductible, instead of 1.4 million, we might be looking at closer to 1.6 million. But we didn't. So we purchased a higher deductible plan and fixed it internally. And that's what we're continuing to do. And you can see the percentages, especially That's why I wanted you to see the historical perspective. You know, you could see that it is getting much better. Part of that is because you only have 4 high claimants with pharmacy, 2 $100,000 claims, and the other aspect is because your premium is so high. That's not, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's much higher than you would expect 62 contracts to have.
Well, I
So-
mean, if there aren't any other questions, I guess, then I would just, ask the board for the ability to move forward with Mark on the Aetna plan, and we can work on getting all the paperwork and what documents and whatnot finalized, and start working with the difference card and start working on the GIS stuff. If that sounds right to you, Mark, tell me if I'm
No,
wrong here.
that it's the best decision for sure.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that.
I appreciate it, Mark.
All right.
Okay, just
I'll be
to-
talking to you this
Thank you,
week,
Mark.
Andrew.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate
All right. Thanks, everybody.
So
Thank you.
we reached consensus to, just so I can put it in the journal, consensus to move forward with First Commonwealth on insurance renewal, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good evening.
All right, you too.
Safe travels back.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so the next thing, it was in your backup material, is just the yearly EMS lease. The county went ahead and executed it and shipped it over. It actually technically lapsed a little bit because of the renewal period here. So I would just ask the board to, agree to renew the lease and allow me to execute it on behalf of the board. I think brings in, I can pull it up, but I want to say it's about $8,900 that we charge the county for that building in Lewis Center as the EMS station.
No concerns, Andrew, on my end. I think it's good partnership.
And I'll just sort of throw out there, I've had some good dialogue with the county, and they want to find ways to partner with Orange Township. They recognize we're uniquely situated in the county and a economic driver for us. So, I think this is one of those cooperative things that we have with the county that seems to be working well.
Yeah, Andrew, one thing too I forgot to bring up when we were talking with Captain Rice, the fire department there. In passing the fire station on Orange Road and South Old State, I noticed the signage had been removed or was sitting by the building a while back, and I just drove by and saw it still there. And I know when we met with some of the fire department, signage was something that they had surfaced as a concern, just from a sense of culture and pride. And that kind of stuck out to me. I know the building's already, older, and it's not the more modern structure that you have over North Orange area. So I wanted to surface that too. I realized that a board meeting is probably not necessary to do that, but since everybody's on the call, and I imagine Captain Rice too, whatever we can do to get some signage over there would be appropriate.
And Trustee Grumbles, that is part of with the wayfinding. I reached out to the vendor and communicated that to them. So, and I had the opportunity to mention this to Jason Ray the other day, and I apologize for being remiss and not sharing it with the board, that it will go out. It just may not be with this first go around. So, but it's on there. The vendor's aware of it, and it's going to happen. And just one more thing, since we're talking about that station, I think we talked to the engineer's office about potentially looking into doing a Hawks signal there, which is to help with the vehicles coming in and out and traffic flow. And that's something Bill and I are going to have to pick up. And we can talk with Captain Rice about it, but it sort of all came out about the time that Chief Noble announced his retirement. So, but that was another sort of request that we had, and we've talked to the
Yeah, I
engineers.
remember him bringing that up too. And I appreciate you running the concerns he shared to ground. So thank you for that update.
No problem. So, so I began to just ask, I didn't type up a formal resolution to this because I just need authorization to sign the lease. Everyone, I think, had the opportunity to look at the lease. So however, we want to do it by consensus or call a vote to approve and authorize me to sign the lease, that's all I really need.
Consensus is fine.
Consent for Trustee Grumbles too.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the last thing, which was the last minute ad. So just again, sort of Alan Freeman and I have had a bunch of different conversations with the county on a bunch of different projects, Bale Canyon in particular. So I think in the last meeting, you might remember the engineer's office asked us for a resolution for one of the applications they're working on us with for, I believe it was OPWC, that Alan Freeman needed a similar resolution for the Morpsey application that he put in for Bale Canyon. So that's, it's one of these things, to be honest with you, it seems like it ought to be self-evident. If Orange Township is putting the application in, Orange Township approves it, but Alan requested that we pass this resolution. So, I'd ask the board to, pass this resolution, and I'll ship it along to Alan as soon as I can.
We're on 369 now, correct?
370.
Oh, see, glad I asked. Okay, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 20-370, authorizing administrator of Orange Township to move forward with application to Morpsey to seek funds for phase 1 Bale Canyon improvements.
Second.
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto.
Yes.
Well, thank you. The one other thing I'll just mention, since we're talking about Alan Freeman, is I honestly forgot to ask him the specifics of this today, but last week he called to let us know that we did receive some potential funding from Delaware County on our trails project. So, and that was something that he was chasing down and did on his own. So I just wanted to let you know, like, he's actually brought us some tangible grant money out of that. And I've sent some other things his way, and so has Bill, but I did want to update the board on that.
That's great. Thank you. And we have one last item for tonight under new business.
Is that the alumni?
Correct.
The Orange alumni had reached out to me, their president, Dean Nichols, and the Orange alumni are the graduates of the original Orange High School. Well, it was everything. It was elementary all the way through high school that sat approximately where the fire station is on Old State. And they wanted, number one, to express their thanks to the township and to the board for their support. We did a monument for them several years ago, commemorating the site. Many of them came into town to see it, and they are going to dismantle their organization, and they're going to complete it through 2023. That will be the 70th year that the last class graduated from Orange High School. So they wanted to thank you. And then they wanted to set up the township to receive any of the funds that are left over in their account after 2023. He seemed a little unsure of how to do that. I had suggested they just do a survivorship of the township. I guess I want to be careful how I word this. If he should not still be alive in 3 years, He wanted to set it up so the township would receive any funds that are still in that account. He's still trying to work with the bank the best way to do that. If one of us has to go and sign paperwork for that, I'm not really positive how much money that would be. So he wanted to know, number one, would we as a board receive those funds? And they still want to schedule they do one meeting a year, and people come from all over the United States for it. It's the fourth Saturday in June every year, and they want to know if they are able to schedule those for the next 3 years before they dismantle the organization. I spoke with Marianne, and typically we accept a deposit check, and then we just return it to them after their event. I know that we haven't been scheduling anything. Of course, they wouldn't have it if, they still, if the COVID rules were still in place. So I'm not really sure what to tell him about that as far as getting it scheduled. So thank you. Will we accept a donation? And can they schedule their next anniversary meeting?
I wouldn't think there'd be any issues with accepting the donation. I guess it's just a question of the legality of it.
And I told him he really needs to talk to his banker to get a little bit more detail there, and I can give him a better answer. Will they be able to schedule any of their next 3 alumni meetings?
I mean, I'm sure we can create a date and give them their, as far as just a verbal confirmation.
Right, just kind
I
of
don't think
reserve
that-
that particular
yeah, I don't-
spot.
That issue.
Okay, and I think that's it.
All right. Does anyone else have anything else to add for tonight?
Do you want to try to set that special meeting up now? So we
Sure. I
don't
mean,
have a lot of emails
I
going
was
back and
thinking
forth,
maybe-
or?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe next Monday. We could do it, like I said, anytime. Should be just a very short call. So we could do it during the day, in the evening, whatever works for you folks, if Monday is an option.
6 p.m. is best for me.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Andrew, you're good too?
Yes.
Okay, let's plan 6. Thanks for the follow-up, Debbie, 6 p.m. on November the 9th. I'll let Mary Ann know.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I will make the motion then to adjourn.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Second.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Thank you,
Thanks, everyone.